Hey guys, good day. Good day. It's Chris with Nichols Retirement Empire, and I'm making a trip over to Bass Pro Shop. And I have to go. Tammy's giving me a list to go to Aldi's, which I'm excited about. I always like a challenge. But anyway, yeah, I'm going. It is a absolutely spectacular day. The last few days have just been awesome. We finally had fall really kind of hit down here near Savannah, and I'm not fishing. I should have been fishing every day this week, but my boat is in the shop again. I've gone through a series of different things that have happened. Hopefully this will be the last time I have it in there. You know, that means I can watch fishing on YouTube, and I can go to Bass Pro Shop. I can watch fishing, get ideas, think about fishing, and then go to Bass Pro Shop and buy a few little things. So that's where I'm going. I'm on my way to my favorite place. But yeah, it's been kind of boring. I did kind of tweak my back a little bit. Nothing bad at all. I mean, but I can barely feel it. I was doing a lot of chicken ranching yesterday. Did a bunch of stuff for my chickens. I cleaned out their bedding in the little chicken house. I trimmed all the vines around their little chicken fence. I watered, cleaned out, and put the water put new water in it for them. Filled up the feeders. I did all my chicken ranching yesterday. So my chicken herd should be happy today. So I've done that. Tammy's been sick, so I've been, you know, around her while she's sick. No, I've done some things to help. I have. I've been helping. I'm a very good helper, and I'm a good driver, excellent driver, good helper. And so I've been helping her, but she's pretty much recovered at this point. So I'm just going to have to make my own fun. It's kind of like when you were a little kid. Y'all remember that? When you were a little kid, we didn't have any of these games. We didn't have any of this stuff like they got now. We had electricity. Some of us had electricity. Some of you probably didn't when you were little. You may not have had electricity, but anyway, you know, you would just make something to do, because there wasn't anything to watch on TV except for on Saturday. There wasn't anything to, you know, I mean, you had to come up with something to do. And sitting in a house wasn't an option. It just wasn't, you know. You go out there, and you know what my favorite thing to do was? Well, one of my favorite things. I'll say it's my absolute favorite when I was a kid. But I liked the little army men. And I had little army men for... I had little army men for World War II. I had little army men for like the Civil War. And I had little army men like cowboys and Indians, kind of, you know, or cavalry and Indians, kind of a deal. And I'd take them outside, out there, you know, and I would set up little scenes, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I played with those things all the time. I had a BB gun, and it was such a bad BB gun. It was a Daisy. I didn't have one of those good. I didn't have one of the pump ones. I just had the regular old Daisy standard, you know, cheap BB gun. And it was so slow when you would shoot the bullet. I literally could see the BB and the arc of the BB and where it would hit. So I learned a lot about adjusting your angle when you would shoot, and dealing with the wind, and dealing of course, You couldn't hit anything more than probably 60, 70 feet away. Well, however far you could see the BB go, that was your But I would go outside and I would take that thing. Where we lived, we didn't have any neighbors or anything. We lived out on Lookout Mountain. And, you know, I could go anywhere around my house, whether we owned the property or not, out in the woods. You know, there were creeks and ponds and all this kind of stuff. So I would go out there with my little BB gun and shoot trees and shoot whatever. Mailbox. I love to shoot the mailbox. And it wouldn't damage the mailbox because it was so I like to shoot the mailbox because it made a noise when you hit it. And so I'd go out there just forever with it. I mean, one of my I still remember going, and whenever we were at like Kmart or the dollar store or wherever, and I'd get my new little container of BBs. And if you got one of them little milk carton half pint things of BBs, and you look out, there's gonna be some shooting going on. I'm gonna shoot, and don't get offended, but I was gonna shoot, you know, the enemy. Because they were all around. I was surrounded. And so I'd go out there and, you know, be whatever, Audie Murphy, Sergeant York or something. And that was it, man. I'd shoot until I got tired of shooting. And then I would, I'd climb trees. I wasn't much of a tree climber. One time I had we had a big garden, and there was a tree, a big, well, not winter, there's trees everywhere. And so I decided that there was a fence that went right by the tree, and I was going to climb the tree, and it wasn't a tree that had a bunch of limbs toward the bottom, so I was going to have to like shimmy up the tree. And you know, like them people do those palm trees, like, you know, the Hawaiian people get hold of it and just scoot right up it. Well, I thought, well, I can do that. Except this tree was so big around I couldn't already get my arms around it. So I started climbing up this tree, and I got a pretty good ways up there, probably 15 feet. And I still wasn't to a limb yet, but I was getting close. And of course, the only thing I had on was some shorts. Lived out in the country, you know, and you didn't wear shoes and whatever. I had shoes. It wasn't like I was shoeless. But anyway, so I'm going up this thing, and I lost my grip, and I started sliding down that tree, and with no shirt and shorts. You want to talk about skin up, man? I went all the way down it, and then wait, there's more. When I got to the bottom where the fence was, the fence with the barbed wire at the top of it, because everybody had cows, I hit that fence, I straddled the fence, and then flipped over off the fence and landed on my back on the I looked like I had been up in a tree and slid down a tree and hit a fence and hit the ground. That's what I looked like. I had skin up like crazy. There was only a few times I was more skin up than that. And it looked like somebody had tied me, you know, and dragged me through town, you know, behind a horse. And I don't even think my mom asked what happened. I was just, and my face was okay. So I guess that's, you know, because, you know, you got to protect your assets. So anyway, I like to kill myself coming off that thing. But so I wasn't a really good tree climber. I didn't do a whole lot. I mean, I did have a couple tree houses, so I like to get up in those. What else would I do? Oh, I loved to take like dirt clods when they dried up from the garden and throw them, because it looked like an explosion when it hit things. So I would then I would be artillery, and I'd throw it and it'd go. So I'd do that. for a while and throw those around. And that was a lot of fun. I love to do that. That was one of my favorite things to do. Another time, let's talk about my accidents while I'm talking about my favorite things to do, because it was always of course, I love to ride my bike. So my worst bike wreck I ever had, and like I said, where we lived, there wasn't any neighbors within, a long way. And the road where we lived was it was paved, but it was like that real rough gravel pavement kind of a deal. And so I would ride my bike up and down the road. I could go anywhere on my bike. There wasn't any restriction. They never told me don't, be gone too long or don't ride your bike too far or whatever. I'd go wherever I wanted to go with my bike. And so one time I was, we had a lot of hills because, I told you I lived up on the mountain. So you'd really get going sometimes. There were some big hills and little hills and all that. And there was as a matter of fact, near my house, there was an actual bluff. And I mean the kind of bluff where like people would like push their cars off and stuff, it was, and I'd go to that bluff all the time and play around on that bluff and look down, at the bottom, how far it was down there. And, and there were all kind of ponds I'd go to. But anyway, so one time I was coming back home and I'd been riding it, and there was this one particular hill, and I got going, fast as I could go. And of course I was barefoot and didn't have a shirt. I'm flying out through there, and I had taken my feet off the pedals. Well, those old bikes, once you take your feet off the pedals are going like this, 500 miles an hour. And I was barefoot, so I couldn't touch the pedal to stop. I was like, well, and I didn't have the handbrakes. You stopped with the pedals. And so I went to stop, and the only thing I could think of, I'll just put my foot down and stop it, which works when you have shoes on. And I did wear shoes a lot, but that time I didn't have shoes on. And I stuck my foot down on that pavement. And needless to say, from there on, it turned into like one of those wrecks like that you see on the, on TV where people are tumbling. It looked like a NASCAR wreck. Yeah, I got home that time. And that time my mom did say something like, what in the world happened to you? It was road rash. It's like I'd been on a motorcycle. I was tore up. So anyway, after that, I wore shoes on the bike. I learned my lesson. I was a smart little feller. And so that happened. That was a bad accident. But I loved to ride my bike. Another time I was on my bike. I was a little older this time. And it was a nicer bike. It was like a 3-speed or something, And so I told you I could go as far as I wanted to go. And in the summer, once I got a little older, my mom and dad were at work and I was out of school, so I really couldn't. I'd go anywhere. So I would go down this road and that road, and just kind of explore around, see how far, And I was old enough to where I could go a long way. So I was a good way away from the house, and I went by this one house, and everybody had dogs, so I wasn't scared of dogs. But everybody up there, like I said, it was the 70s out, rural on the mountain, So I went by this one house, and a dog come out from under the porch. No problem, no sweat, man, I'm used to it. Then another dog, and then another dog, another dog. It was a whole they were like coon dogs. And so if you've ever been around hunting dogs, they're loud and they're aggressive and they can run. So, here come all these dogs out from under this porch. And if you're on a bicycle, man, they'd get right next to you. And they could go about as fast as you could pedal. And because they were big dogs. They were chasing me, and I'm like, oh my God. if these dogs catch me, they're gonna eat me alive. I mean, and there must have been, I don't know how many there were looking back on it, but at the time it felt like there were like 20 dogs behind, you know, right on my heels. So man, I'm pedaling like a maniac trying to get away from all these dogs. And so I had never been down that road before, and I was like, I'm not going back that way. Once I outran the dogs, of course I was exhausted, and then I was like, okay, there's no way I can go back on this road. So I had to go around. There was a highway that went across the mountain that went down to Trenton, Georgia. It went from Lafayette to Trenton. And so I got out on that highway and I rode my bike. And I mean, I don't know how many miles I went, but I mean, I wasn't going back on that road. You couldn't have held a gun to my head and make me go back down that road. I was scared to death. And I never went down that road again, obviously. But that was pretty traumatic that day. But I didn't get hurt, you know. So that's the main thing. So yeah, I would ride my bike for hours and hours, and I would fish in the little ponds, and I'd go, you know, just be outside all day long, doing whatever crossed your mind. But those were my main activities, in which, you know, made me what I am today. A guy that can really hit things with a weak BB gun and throw dirt clods against trees. That's what I am. That's what I can do. And I could probably go back right now and do all that stuff and be really good at it because I trained. And I could really set up a little battle scene with some Army men if I had any right now. And, you know, important things that you needed to learn how to do. And, you know, you look back at it now and you're like, man, what a wasted bunch of time. No, but it wasn't a wasted bunch of time because I had fun. I didn't have much people around me. I didn't have much friends that lived near me, kids that lived near me. I had to play by myself. And, you know what? If I'd have had friends with me, we'd have been doing the same thing. We'd just been doing it together. We'd have been shooting at each other with the BB guns and throwing dirt clods at each other instead of trees. But I tell you what I wasn't doing. All the foolishness and craziness that kids end up getting mixed in today with all this online stuff. No, none of that was happening. I wasn't getting my mind poisoned with crazy stuff on the internet. That wasn't happening. So I guess it was okay that I was out there playing Army and shooting at Native Americans. You know, because I really wasn't doing anything but playing. I wasn't getting mad at anybody. I wasn't becoming, you know, my mind wasn't getting manipulated and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't being exposed to bad stuff. So it was fun. It was fun being by yourself out in the middle of nowhere. Thanks for watching, guys. Y'all have a good day.